Now, across Texas, the issue is...
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Greg Grugan in Houston.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin, and this is Texas, the issue is.
Governor Greg Abbott used a lot of political capital, and it paid off this week. House Republicans, for the first time, passing a school voucher bill, so-called education savings accounts. The House also did pass nearly $8 billion in public school spending. Democrats will still maintain that the ESA plan will not help low-income students. Texas Democrats delayed the inevitable, but Thursday at 2 a.m., House Republicans checked off a major box, passing education savings accounts, also known as school vouchers.
Too many of our students, especially our low-income students and minority students, are trapped in schools that are failing them.
This bill is everything that is wrong with politics. It is the interests of big money prevailing over everyday Texans.
The pitch from Republicans is to provide choice for parents. Senate Bill 2 sets aside $1 billion for savings accounts that allow eligible students to pay costs associated with private schools. Governor Abbott has applied much pressure on Republicans to fall in line this session. Hours before the debate started, President Trump spoke to lawmakers by phone.
I just think it's a really forward-thinking vote. There's nothing complex about it.
Critics complain the bill undermines state support for public schools, even with a separate school funding bill that also passed the House on Wednesday. I spoke to SMU political scientist Matthew Wilson about the vote and what happens next.
Right now, there'll be that negotiation back and forth. Which element of the House bill will remain, which elements of the Senate bill will remain, but they're not far apart. The differences that exist are relatively minor. I can't imagine any difference between those two becoming such a sticking point that it would imperil ultimate passage of the bill.
Do you think it was deliberate that Republican leadership said, let's pass public school funding on the same day as this to diffuse the criticism?
I think absolutely. They want to be able to say that school choice is not the enemy of public education, that we can both invest appropriate resources into public education, as we just did, they'll say, by putting $8 billion additional dollars there, and also provide families with these private school options.
Wilson said it's unlikely Republicans who supported the legislation will get heat at the polls a year from now. The goal from Republicans is to prioritize low-income and special needs students. The threshold for low income in the House's version is a household bringing in about $162,000. Wilson said a year or two from now, there could be criticism if the allocation is not serving a certain population.
I think the only way that this could end up hurting Republicans is if it somehow creates chaos in the public school system, or if there ends up being bitterness about who gets to take advantage of these programs if the demand greatly exceeds the supply.
Well, my word for that interview is champagne, win, dub, whatever you want to call it. It's a big win for the governor. Greg, what is your one word?
Stephen, my word is melodramatic.
All right, Rudy Koski.
Stephen, I think I'm going to go with catfished.
All right, the Fox Texas Trio will be back right after this break. House Republicans got the school voucher bill across the finish line, something that Governor Abbott, like I mentioned, used a lot of political capital for. It paid off. Greg, we are taping this on Friday. Friday morning, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said that he will ask the chairman there in the Senate to concur with the House version, meaning looks like there won't be any conference committee. This is going to go straight to Governor Abbott's desk. What is your initial reaction to this?
Oh, Stephen, there was absolutely no stopping this high-speed freight train and its conductor, Governor Greg Abbott, who spent 2 years clearing the tracks via primaries against a cohort of reluctant rural Republicans. If anything, I'm surprised by the modest nature of the $1 billion investment within a $100 billion per year total spend on public ed. Yep, all of this wailing and gnashing of teeth over 1% of a school spend that's actually increasing next year by $8 billion. Of course, frustrated, furious Democrats breathlessly painted an apocalyptic landscape of shuttered ISD campuses and classrooms crammed with 50 marooned and shortchanged students. We've all heard this hyperbolic gloom and doom before. And frankly, it just doesn't match the experience of 30 plus other states well ahead of Texas on the choice trail. Now, will the parents of students already attending private schools benefit? Yeah. Will kids floundering at public school campuses find better options elsewhere in the country? They have. Guys, Dallas Representative Ana Maria Rodriguez Ramos said this was a fight ultimately about power. And it's pretty clear the public school establishment didn't want to relinquish any of it, not even 1%.
Interesting take there. And yeah, it was $1 billion for this initial spend. It does increase, but I get what you're saying, Greg, as far as in the grand scheme of things, $1 billion compared to nearly $8 billion is a difference. Rudy Koski, I'm assuming you have a different take.
No, I think Greg said it all. That what a hot take and hammering. Whoa, Greg Grugan throwing some heat there. I feel it all the way here in Austin. Just hot, just radiating. Boom. Look, I'm going to build on top of what Greg said. What we saw is the result of some old-fashioned, hardball politics with some backroom arm twisting. Reality? Well, the debate Wednesday and Thursday showed that doesn't matter. It was all about the sales pitch. Now, the prospect of buyer's remorse predicted by Wilson and other analysts, that is real. That's reality, especially as a lot of parents who want an ESA learn that they can't get one. They can only apply for one, but they ain't going to get it, which is why my word is catfished. I think they're sold a bill of goods that they're really going to look at, and there's going to be a lot of buyer's remorse. Until that reality hits, though, you can expect Governor Abbott and his supporters to continue to portray SB 2 as universal school choice, when it's painfully clear SB 2, at best, is simply a new taxpayer-funded government welfare coupon. Stephen?
Like it.
All right. I mean, true words there. Okay, so guys, Democrats, of course, they were on the losing side of this. Part of the argument when they were bringing up all these amendments that got tabled, one argument by Representative Tallarico, he quoted the comptroller saying that when you account for inflation, it would have taken $15 billion. They got $8 billion. Greg, do Democrats have an argument in this sense when it comes to the public school funding? Not the vouchers, but the public schools.
Yeah, Stephen, they do. And I think Chairman Brad Buckley conceded as much when he said the $395 increase in the per pupil allotment amounted to, quote, planting a seed to build our way back, end quote. Now, that said, given the substantial surplus this session and the $29 billion sacked away in the rainy day fund, Texas could certainly spend more. But here's the rub. More than half of the state's third graders can't read on grade level. And it's been that way since 2012. So the question becomes, will spending a ton more money substantially improve results? Democrats say we really don't have any option, while Republicans are saying let's at least try something different. I know you both heard a recurring theme this week from progressives, many of whom accuse conservatives of purposely starving public ed and then condemning the lack of academic attainment. I think it's a good bet we are going to hear that refrain, valid or not, over and over again.
Rudy, you have the final say on this. You know, the ESAs, the goal from Republicans, the pitch, has been to help low-income students first, low income and special needs. Now, depending on what you consider low income, that's a whole different argument. But some parents who may want to send their kid to another school, they go to public school and rely on things like a school bus and things that may not be available at a private school. Do you think this is actually going to touch those populations who need it the most?
Stephen, no. The busing transportation argument was about as strong as the offensive line for the Houston Texans last season. Parents that want their kids at a private school will get them to a private school. Come on, it's being done right now. That's a fact. Too much time was lost talking about that. At the end of the day, the Democrat strategy of just saying no was like going into prevent defense. At some point, the art of political compromise will have to return to the political process, especially when everyone knows what the vote count's going to be months in advance. We knew the outcome of this. A political insider once told me, it's better to get on the winning team and help draft a good bill, or at least a compromise bill, than to just throw up amendments at the last minute, doomed to fail, no matter how good they sound late in the debate. Right, guys?
Absolutely.
All right, up next, some tariff talk and the kind of jobs that the head of the Texas Business Association is expecting to come back home. Welcome back to The Issue Is. Now, there are a lot of different opinions about the Trump tariff war, a lot, but there's been little discussion about exactly what type of jobs this global face-off is supposed to really bring back to the states. I spoke to Glenn Hammer, the head of the Texas Business Association, about the short-term and long-term returns that he's anticipating.
I would say that in terms of this nearshoring and reshoring, the focus in Texas has been on these higher tech, higher paying jobs.
But not everyone is a techie, and you need blue collar jobs.
Right.
Can we bring blue collar jobs back?
Well, the car manufacturing jobs are just going to be at a much higher technology level. And the answer is yes, but it's just going to require higher skilled workers who are making greater pay. But here's the great news. No state is investing more in its workforce than the state of Texas. We're investing over $650 million of extra dollars every year to our 50 community colleges around Texas so that our workers have the skills they need to compete in the 21st century economy.
Early in my career, I covered all the textile mills in the Southeast shutting down as they were being moved, those jobs being moved offshore. Couldn't we innovate and bring that technology and those jobs, that textile jobs, back to the states?
My guess is as we automate and innovate, that some of those types of jobs that have left our shores will come back. Now, they won't be the same number of workers because it's just going to be a much higher tech platform. But I agree with that thesis that as we continue to innovate and automate, it's going to give some additional opportunities to bring a more technology-friendly manufacturing base back to the United States.
I hear a lot of people say that Americans just can't make smartphones cheap. And if we start doing that, smartphones will be costing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Do you buy that argument?
What I do buy is that it's going to take there's nothing wrong when Americans are innovating to do so in a way where consumers can afford it. So if some of that production is in Mexico or somewhere else, ideally in a friendly country, we still win with that. Also think logistics. Right now, as we speak, the state of Texas has the largest port in the country, and that's in Laredo. These are a lot of good-paying blue-collar jobs that are transporting all sorts of goods and equipment.
You mentioned Laredo. There's a lot of people nervous about Laredo and the import-export situation at that port. Are they okay, or is that area going to have to retool?
No, they're going to be great. I would just say that with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement in effect, and it's actually getting strengthened by all of this tariff turbulence around the world, the state of Texas is in the best possible position to win more manufacturing jobs, blue-collar jobs, as well as high-tech jobs to keep our economy as the strongest in the nation.
And your advice to the mom-and-pop business owner who is relying on this cheap merchandise that's coming from overseas so they can resell it, what's your advice to them now? Just hang on, wait it out?
Well, my advice would be to look at all avenues to get the cheapest possible merchandise in. I do believe that we're going to see lower tariffs in the very near future when it comes to even countries like China, when it comes to the essentials that small businesses need to be profitable.
Turbulence is how Glenn Hammer described it, the tariff situation, tariff turbulence. You know, guys, he didn't sugarcoat it by saying the costs will increase and economic bumps, they're expected in places like Laredo, which is a major port. Every day, it's estimated more than $800 million in trade flowing through Laredo. Greg, Do your sources there think an economic slowdown will create a ballot box pushback in the midterms, or, is everyone just hoping for a quick bounce back?
Look, Rudy, it seemed like just a few weeks ago we were talking about a Democratic Party completely adrift, devastated by defeat with no legitimate leaders, and most importantly, no resonating issue upon which to hang their hats. That, of course, has rapidly changed with the Trump tariff policy, the uncertainty it stirred up, and the market sell-offs. When their collective retirement funds take a wallop, voters feel less secure about their future and about the leadership at the helm. My point is this: Democratic strategists are quietly praying the president's gambit backfires and causes enough collective discomfort to energize a midterm reversal of power. We need to look no further than California for evidence, where Governor Newsom has swung from renouncing men and women's sports and chatting up Republicans to suing President Trump this week in federal court over a tariff policy he's labeled harmful, chaotic, and illegal. You see where I'm going with this? If the Trump strategy stalls, Democrats have a chance at turning the pain into gain. On the flip side, if the president muscles trading partners into better deals sooner rather than later, the GOP could score a jackpot come November of 26.
And we are scoring some big jobs. A big AI supercomputer company recently announcing expansions in Dallas and to Houston. Hammer told me community colleges are playing a big role in supplying the new jobs for these kind of projects. Stephen, it seems like a blending of automation and human power. That's what's coming back. What are you seeing in Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're starting to see, and you have to look at it. I mean, while, new plants and factories are popping up across the state and across the country, right? These businesses are having to struggle, in my opinion, with the fact of, while full automation may sound great, you want to still have the attractive nature of saying this is bringing 400, 500, whatever amount of jobs to this community, which will create more students in schools, which will create more homes being bought, yada, yada, yada. And so I think it's definitely a balancing act. The real thing is, and bouncing off of what Greg was saying, is with the tariff talk, how long will it take some of these key manufacturers to possibly bring their plants back to the U.S., and how long will that take? And the growing pain of, let's say, tariffs do make an impact, then how long will that growing pain be before American-made things are being made again?
Manufacturing, business services, real estate, government, healthcare, education, those are the leading economic drivers in Houston, according to the Greater Houston Partnership. Greg, the partnership's April report shows economic growth in the Houston area slowing down in March. There's a lot of mixed messaging going on, like what Stephen's talking about.
Yeah, Rudy, look, even the author of these tariffs, the President of the United States, has conceded there will be some discomfort. A statement quickly followed by the suggestion the long-term payoff will dwarf the pain. Personally, I'm hopeful of reshoring key industries and a substantial number of jobs for national security reasons. But it looks like a gamble for corporate decision makers who must make the calculated decision of whether to break ground on expensive new facilities or just wait out the trade conflict and hope Team Trump and counterparty nations can come to new terms. Let's face it, the president has been mercurial, slapping on duties and then pausing them. Business craves certainty, and the sheer lack of certainty, as reflected in the equity markets, has lots of folks in a holding pattern. The Texas oil patch has seen prices crater, supply chains challenged, and economists handicap the prospect of a recession at even money. Not exactly a formula for drill, baby, drill. Oh, and of course, interest rates, they are in a holding pattern too, according to the Fed.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. It seems that this whole thing hinges on new trade deals, lower interest rates, and the Trump tax cut getting renewed. Stephen, the Dallas Fed says there's a lot of uncertainty out there, most since 2023.
Yeah, there is, and things aren't really going to change until we stop seeing the on again, off again. If the president makes a stance and sticks to it, I think then people will react in a certain way. This fluctuation just has everyone confused. Greg?
All right, we have other issues, personal issues, and we will get to those after the break. Welcome back. We have issues, and I've been troubled all week by that terrible tragedy in Frisco. 2 young lives, 1 lost, 1 destroyed probably forever. And I just hate the fact that that's not enough. There's not enough hurt there, that we have to bring in white versus black, black versus white. Come on, people, let's be humans. These are 2 lives that will never be the same, 1 lost. Let's just be human and try to get past this. All right, Rudy.
I agree with that.
Rudy?
Yep, me too. I'm going to take a little lighter approach to this, guys. You know, I'm concerned about my popcorn intake this summer. There are a lot of supposed blockbuster movies that are coming out, being released, and you look at the trailers and they're reboots of a reboot of a reboot of a reboot. Fantastic Four, we should say, after Fantastic 45. You know, it's like Rocky 83. Come on, guys, give me a better movie story out there, a better blockbuster. You know, I don't like eating popcorn in my house. The popcorn at movie theaters, much better. And I'm concerned. I'm going to go low intake on my popcorn this summer.
All right. So mine is political, but it's like a pet peeve. Okay, it's kind of fun seeing the gavel break in the House, but like, why are so many gavels breaking? Like, I know everything's bigger in Texas. Is it just a Texas big gavel issue? I'm just not understanding why we keep seeing repeat gavels breaking, and then like, do they auction those off? Do they get them mounted on their wall as a souvenir? The one from the voucher debate broke the glass on the table. Just this, if we're doing everything better in Texas, we need better gavels.
Everything's coming apart in the House. So
One
what's
word,
new?
Testosterone.
Well, they do hit the gavel pretty hard. I don't know. Well, that's all the time we have. To see this episode or any of our past ones, go to our station's YouTube channel.
And keep the conversation going on social media.
And they've got a lot of issues that are starting to wind down in the state legislature. We'll take a look at some of the hot ones this next week. And don't forget to let us know what you think the issue is.